bunnies, and welcome back to Woodland Bunny. So today we have an autumn reading plans video in which I'm going to be talking through all of the books in which I want to get to in autumn, so my TBR, and then some recommendations in which I have for you that I wish I had read in the autumn seasons and I think just suit autumn perfectly for different reasons. I just wanted to start off by doing my autumn TBR, as I know it's something which I can't really talk much about because I haven't read any of the books yet, but I just wanted to make you aware of what books I'm picking up this autumn. I suppose I'm not very good at TBRs because I am a mood reader, but I have set my eyes on these ones for a long time to read in the months of autumn, so let's get into them. I have my stack here, so let's start with Interview of a Vampire. Now I am currently making my way through this one, and it's one of those in which on this shelf here I have started reading and just kind of abandoned for not really a particular reason against the book. I'm always chopping and changing books because of my mood reading, and so I definitely want to make sure I make my way through Interview of a Vampire because what I read of it I was really enjoying. I was 44 pages through this book when I put it down, and so I'm just very excited to pick it back up again in this autumn season because everything to do with witches, vampires, gothicness and spookiness, atmospheric reading, and just a lot of heavy fantasy really reminds me of autumn. Then the next book in which I want to read in the autumn seasons is A Discovery of Witches, and this is a series and this book is quite big, so I'm a little bit intimidated by it. I've heard such good things about this series. I know it's very beloved and it's compared to a adult version of Twilight, I believe, so that's really intriguing, and yeah, I'm just so excited to get to it and see what all the hype is about. And we have two more on my TBR list, and the first one is Luminaries. This is just purely cover based because I am obsessed with this cover and it reminds me of everything autumnal, with the oranges and the yellows of the flowers and just the golden decor as well. And again, I've heard many good things about this fantasy read, so very excited to get to it too. And then speaking along the lines of atmospheric reads, I want to get to Babel or Babel. Still haven't figured out how to say this one, but I'm gonna go with Babel. So apparently this one is a very atmospheric read in terms of academia and set in London and Oxford, and I just feel like that's perfect for when it's raining outside. You can get cozy with a hot drink and just read. Although that is how I read anyway throughout all of my seasons. I feel like just having a atmosphere in a book in which really complements that is really great, and it makes the reading experience so much better. So yeah, that's my little TBR for this autumn, and now I need to get into all of the books in which I recommend to you. So we're changing location slightly because if you see my most recent video then you would have known that I've moved, and this is like my library location, and so I'm just obsessed with all different corners of it, so I want to include it in all of the different videos. But yes, these are all of the books in which I have to recommend, so let's get through them. Starting off with a book in which I read quite recently in September, and that's Bring Me Your Midnight, and this is by Rachel Griffin, in which is now one of my favourite authors. I read 3 books from her and I genuinely recommend them all for autumn. I'm recommending this one because it's most fresh in my mind, having just read it, but it's just so much fun. And what I love about Rachel Griffin's writing and books is that they really encapsulate the seasons within the magic. If you like themes of royalty and family and just this whole magical atmosphere, island life and forbidden romance, then you'll definitely enjoy this one, and it's just perfect to snuggle up and read in this autumnal season. Then we have a really recent read in which is one of my most anticipated releases of this year, and I adored it so much, and that is My Roommate is a Vampire. It was so good. If you enjoy themes of almost lovers that shouldn't go together, and then a hero slash protagonist who doesn't really understand the 21st century, and then our other heroine slash protagonist really does, and just kind of that clash in terms of timelines I haven't really seen before in a vampire romance. And yeah, I just loved it so much. It was so comedic and it was that protective hero again, and I just really enjoyed this one. It made me smile a lot, and it was less cozy and atmospheric and more rom-commy, I would say, but it was still so much fun with those vampire elements woven in and that whole history of the vampire and families, etc. But I would just say this is a much more light-hearted fun time than your typical romance. It did have a steamy scene in it, but it was much more rom-commy than a actual throne, than a heavy fantasy romance, I'd say. say. So just be mindful of that when going into it if you're looking for a more atmospheric read this autumn. But this will be perfect for you if you don't really like that heavy atmospheric reads and you want that light-hearted read to maybe get you out of a reading slump, but you still want that theme of vampires woven in, then I definitely recommend this one. Then we have one of my favorite books of all time, A Dowry of Blood. I highly recommend this one for all seasons, but especially autumn. This centers around Dracula's first bride, and it was just so good. They have a poly relationship in here, and it's going across centuries, and there are just different characters woven into this, different timelines woven into this. It encapsulates so much, and yeah, I just love it so very much. The writing is phenomenal in this book as well. I have reread it so many times. It's just so much fun. It can never get old or boring because there is just so much to it that with every reread you discover something new, mainly because it's so cross timeline and cross characters that you miss little bits that you didn't pick up in the beginning or with your first read, and so I definitely recommend this one. Then we have quite a heavy read in terms of volume, and that is Priory of the Orange Tree. Now I read this one for the first time this year and tabbed it so very much. The reason I recommend this one is because just getting stuck into a really good fantasy in autumn is one of my favorite things to do, and that is a lot to get stuck in. With this one, there is just so much going on. Dual POV, there's dragons woven in here, magic woven in here, just this whole atmosphere is just perfect for autumnal seasons. There's royalty and politics woven in as well, and if you like themes of LGBTQ plus relationships, high fantasy, friendship, secrets, dragons, rulers of kingdoms, tales and history, then I recommend this one for you. Then we have a book which I hadn't stopped thinking about since I read it, and that is The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea, and look how stunning this book is. I highly recommend this one for a fairy tale read. It very much reminds me of that classic fairy tale, and there is star-crossed lovers involved in this, and gods and mythical creatures and mythology, and it's based under the sea as well. It's just so much fun. The fantasy woven into this is again so mythical and so magical, and I definitely recommend it if you're looking for that whimsical style read. Then this one will be really good for you. Then we have the final book that I want to recommend for this little video, in which is Trust of the Emerald Sea. I did a whole reading vlog dedicated to this book, spoiler free, and I absolutely adored it. Again, very similar to The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea. It's very whimsical and mythical and fantastical rather than being high fantasy like Priory of the Orange Tree. So if you're looking for that kind of lower stakes, easy to read, easy to digest, but still that little bit of plot ticking along, then I recommend those two. And just the characters as well, they're so easy to get to grips with. Both books have amazing writing that you can just immerse yourself into straight away and instantaneously, and yes, I just recommend these two for those particular reasons. I absolutely adored this one. It was so much fun, and yes, it was my first Brandon Sanderson, and it's safe to say that I think I want to pick up more Brandon Sanderson also this autumn. I probably should have put that on my TBR too, but yes, I recommend this one to you if you haven't already read it. So those are all of the books I have to you to recommend today. I have so many more that I think could be perfect for autumn, but I didn't want to make this video too long, and I'm hopeful that there are some of these books in which you haven't picked up yet that you do read and love, and I would love to hear if you do so. I wanted to kind of do a different range of reading because I know not everybody likes to read the same things in different seasons, and yeah, like I say, sometimes I'm in the mood for that light-hearted, mythical, magical, really kind of like whimsical and fairy tale-esque read, but other times I really like high fantasy, high stakes, and just getting immersed in plots and politics and royalty, etc in my books. So yeah, those are my reading recommendations and my autumn TBR. I love autumn so much. It's one of my favorite seasons. Sorry to be that cliche, but it's just so much fun. It makes me feel so cozy and happy, and I can't wait until it actually turns autumn here where I live because it's still really sunny. I haven't seen many autumnal leaves, which makes me incredibly sad, but I'm trying to fill my home with pumpkins and my own autumnal leaves. So yeah, thank you ever so much for watching, and I hope wherever you are and whatever you're doing, you have a wonderful day or night, and until next time, friends, bye.